Hello everyone, welcome back to my Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous Azata Let's Play. Last time we did a lot of talking around the camp, and then we were given even more conversations we need to go have, so I'll go get them out of the way now. Before recording, I caught up the characters that we aren't using in level. Yeah, just because I'm not really planning to use them outside of when we need to go on their side quests. And I spent a lot of time doing level ups, so... Just figured... Oh, wow, there's a lot of loot in here. Just figured I would get that out of the way. Anything to say, Anevia? Anevia sweeps an inquisitive glance over you. So tell me straight, how'd that brawl at the Grey Garrison end? I heard the rumours, of course. That's kind of my job, you know, to listen. You've no idea what Cobblers the Crusaders say about you. Some say that Iomedae came to you and appointed you a herald. Others say that you died, and an honest-to-God's angel is now leading the army disguised as you. Still, others say it was just an explosion at an alchemist lab, and I'm the one spreading rumours about your powers. I wish. But you know, you really have changed since the Grey Garrison. It's hard to describe, but you've become kinda... Anevia waves her hand, trying to find the word. More charismatic? More dangerous? I have a gut instinct about these things. If I didn't, I'd already be dead. You're dangerous, Commander. And by Desna, I hope you'll be dangerous to our enemies, and not to us. Or to yourself. We're both followers of Desna and Evia. You don't have to worry. I have to go. Alright, you watch yourself now.
Always watch your back.
I'm sure we'll butt heads with some of the more formal Crusaders, especially Galfrey as time goes on. But, we're on the side of good, so... You shouldn't have to worry too much. So this guy was someone that was introduced to us by the Queen. I think he was second to Holren back, but he wasn't in Canabris. Commander! A tall man with piercing yellow-green eyes gives you a brief nod. Let me personally congratulate you on your new title and thank you for your time in advance. I am Liotr Hawkblade, an Inquisitor of the Church of Iomedae, the Bringer of Light. I require your assistance in a certain delicate matter involving one of your companions, young Count Daeran Arande. What brings you here? I ask you to assist the Church of Iomedae in an investigation of the utmost importance. I understand that the leader of the Crusade has plenty of other matters to attend to, but please allow me to tell you the details. Perhaps it will explain why I'm calling upon you. The Inquisitor's open face instantly reveals his feelings. He frowns and looks through you, lost in his thoughts for a moment. I suppose that you have already heard about the Count Arande's story. I refer to the tragedy at the Heaven's Edge estate. Tell me what happened at Heaven's Edge. About 10 years ago, several powerful demons managed to penetrate the Wardstone barrier and commit mass murder of all the guests who attended the feast in celebration of young Daeran's birthday. The unknown magical disease they had brought wiped out the whole estate in less than a day. That was not a unique case in itself. The demons had attempted such raids on Mendevian lands before. They had never dared to target such a well-protected place. The Arende family was exceptionally rich. The estate was protected by elite bodyguards. There were several strong and righteous paladins among the guests. Moreover, the revered Nestrin, Daeran's tutor, was one of the most powerful priests of Iomedae in the vicinity. All of them died nonetheless, except for the young Count, who had suddenly manifested his outstanding sacred healing powers. Was that a divine miracle or a curse? That remains to be seen. You're going to investigate this old case, aren't you? Yes, I am. I have several reasons to doubt the widely shared account of what exactly happened at the estate and how it happened. You see, Commander, I was among those sent to examine the estate after the incident. I saw everything with my own eyes, and I still remember it clearly, even though it feels like it happened a lifetime ago. Heaven's Edge was a unique place that still carried the spirit of old Mendev before the world wound, and yet on that day it turned into a labyrinthian house of horrors, like something only seen in our nightmares. Apologies for the discretion. I wanted to tell you about my suspicions. Everything about the incident seemed odd. Why was the only person left alive a young boy with a newfound talent for defying magic? Why did nobody send to Canabris for help, even though the agony spanned many hours? We found the demons dead with their heads cut off. when we got into the estate. How were they defeated? How did the disease kill even the paladins present at the estate, who are said to be immune to any disease? If the demons had found a way to penetrate the Holy Warrior's defences, why has this never been repeated since the tragedy at Heaven's Edge? You are the only person here who can help. You are the only person who can help me here, Commander, because the only living witness of those events is currently serving in your army. Your army's route will take you near to the very site of the tragedy. Heaven's Edge has been abandoned and sealed with potent magic throughout all these years, and only the Count has the power to break that seal. He is unlikely to invite an Inquisitor inside, and in any case he won't like me sniffing around his family seat. But if you, as his commander, expresses your wish to visit the estate, he will be obliged to fulfill it, and I will simply follow you as one of your attendants. There are 100 ways, 1,000 paths, a myriad loopholes in human lives that the forces of evil can use to their advantage. I am not sure which one of those led the demons to the gates of Heaven's Edge, but I do know it wasn't a simple raid, the kind Crusaders face every day. That incident involved a significantly more powerful entity, and that is why I am asking for your help. We cannot be sure that such a tragedy will not happen again until we uncover the truth. I don't really know why I've picked this accent for him. I think he had a more distinct accent, but I can't remember what it was when he last talked. But it's more interesting if I try to make characters sound a bit more unique. And I like doing accents, so why not have the practice? You've already been to the estate several times. What do you expect to find now? I was a young and inexperienced Inquisitor when I first visited Heaven's Edge 10 years ago. My skills have improved significantly since then, and I have paid dearly for that. Liotr makes a vague gesture pointing at his scars. My arsenal includes many spells and techniques dedicated to gathering information about people and events. Almost all of them require me to be physically present in the place where the event in question happened. That's why I must return to Heaven's Edge. Why can't you just search the estate yourself without involving me? The estate is abandoned and sealed with several powerful containment enchantments that only the Count himself can lift. This is not the main reason, however. The main reason is that Count Arande is not officially under investigation by the Inquisition, so I couldn't just break into his house even if I found a way to bypass the spells. This is a serious matter, Liotr frowns. A matter that threatens the reputation of the entire Church of Iomedae and my own organisation in particular. We made more than enough unforgivable mistakes during the Third Crusade, and we're still dealing with their consequences. Your presence will give my investigation the necessary legitimacy, Commander. But there is more. In addition to getting official permission, I'd also like to bring an independent third-party investigator to this case. Someone independent but well-respected, and you fit this role perfectly. Did you question Daeran himself? I did, but the Count insisted he couldn't remember anything about the incident due to severe shock. He saw the demons at the very beginning when they appeared at the celebration to announce the onset of the plague and mock their victims. He also witnessed the death of his mother, Countess Selena. That was all he would tell me. Liotr pauses. We had found the young Count sleeping like a log on the floor in one of the rear chambers, having drunk about half the family wine cellar all by himself. There is no reason to disbelieve him on that matter. So you suspect that Daeran is hiding something, that he is to blame for the tragedy? I deliberately refuse to entertain any theories or suspicions so that it doesn't affect the investigation. There is a saying among my colleagues that suspicion is the mother of prejudice, and prejudice is married to failure. I can only tell you that Count Arande wasn't suffering from demonic possession, the most common malaise in our country at the time. Prelate Holrun himself examined the boy right after the tragedy, and he didn't sense anything awry with him. Fine, I'll help you. What do you need me to do? Liotr bows his head with exceptional reverence. Thank you, Commander. Now I ask you to speak to the Count and tell him that you wish to see Heaven's Edge. Please do not inform him of my presence right away. I will join your escort when it's time to travel to the estate. When we get there, I will also require your help during the investigation. You will have to follow me, observe my actions as an independent witness. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me. I will remain here for a while. Are you one of Prelate Holrun's followers? Liotr's face freezes for a moment, but he nods. Yes, of course. What is your opinion on his atrocities? Liotr is silent for a while. Usually people reveal such things about themselves only to their confessor. not to some curious stranger. Still, I did ask for your help, and that imposes certain obligations upon me. Let me put it like this. I spent enough years by Prelate Hulrun's side to learn how to keep him from going over the line. He was an extraordinary man, the vengeful sword of our goddess in human form. He was fighting in the vanguard, fearlessly taking down demons, exposing the cultist plots all by himself. He had served the Inquisition twice as long as I have, and eventually his own paranoia and monumental sense of responsibility eroded his mind. May Iomade guard his soul. Where were you during the attacks on Canabras? I was on the hunt. A very successful one, but as often happens in life, this minor success was a mere harbinger of a larger failure. If I hadn't been so far away from Canabras on the day of the attack, I might have been able to help my comrades and prevent a number of deaths. We're not going to tell him that we killed him. Might make things awkward. Thank you for your answer. It is not an easy topic for me. I prefer not to discuss this again. Tell me more about yourself, Inquisitor. I want to know who I'm dealing with. I am Ulthan by birth, but I have lived in Mendev most of my life, dedicating myself to the service of the Inheritor. My warrior brethren mostly worship Gorum, but I have never been eager to fight for the sake of battle alone. I was a good fighter in my early youth, and could easily best most of my peers, but I didn't enjoy showing off my skills. Victory is bland on its own. Purpose adds flavour to war. I can't say I've always been a faithful sword of Iomade, but in my mercenary days, fate brought me to the borders of Mendev, where I spent quite a long time among crusaders, fighting shoulder to shoulder with my righteous comrades in arms, and watching demons commit their atrocities eventually led me to something I had been seeking my whole life, purpose and faith. That is how I found my calling. Even though it may be hard at times, I never regretted my decision. I have to go. So this is the next step in Daeran's side quest. We're going to investigate him. And his Sosiel. So Sosiel is a new companion that we get. I'm not really going to be using him, but
hello again.
I've got nothing against him.
I'm very pleased to meet you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
A young cleric stands before an easel, his brush hovering over the canvas without touching it. Instead of painting, the young man absent-mindedly gazes at the sky of Canabras, which is still streaked with towering plumes of black smoke. Finally, he notices you and smiles, shaking off his stupor.
It's a pity I wasn't there at the Grey Garrison to witness your feats of strength with my own eyes. The flash, however, could be seen miles and miles away. Some people were frightened of it, thinking that the demons had blown up the remains of the keep. I, for one, knew immediately that it was a good sign. The light above the city showed us that there was still hope.
Who are you, and how could you possibly be of any use to my army?
My name is Sosiel. I am a cleric of Shaylin, the Eternal Rose and the Goddess of Beauty. Yes, I know that many people would consider me useless in a war. This is not a usual war, though. Just consider our enemy. The Abyss and his demons are the very embodiment of everything evil and ugly in the world. Perhaps a disciple of kindness and beauty might come in handy. I have no doubt that we will win this war, Commander. We just have to. It is our destiny. My role is to help you, and all those standing by your side in this struggle, to survive and flourish. Everyone deserves the chance to find peace and happiness in the world that they are defending so selflessly.
What are you painting? The cleric's eyes linger mournfully on the canvas. The unfinished painting depicts a tower crowned with a rainbow-tailed bird, the symbol of Shaylin. 5 people dressed in robes stand before the temple, men and women, young and old. They all gaze back at you with radiant happiness and joy in their serene eyes.
My brothers and sisters in faith. They sent me for help, and then they saved my life, Commander. If the Prioress hadn't ordered me to escape the city and seek help, I would have died right along with them. Instead, I met Queen Galfrey on my way to Nerosian, and hurriedly returned to Canabras, only to find my friends dead on the steps of our desecrated temple.
I want to draw them the way they live on in my memory. Wise, beautiful, and loyal to their goddess and their city to the very end.
Sosiel touches the edge of the canvas gently, as if patting a friend's shoulder in consolation. Let's go with the chaotic option. This is why you have to treasure every moment you spent with the ones you love. Today you're together, but who knows what tomorrow may bring. We could go good, I'm sorry for your loss, but let's be chaotic.
You're right. I took their company for granted and never even imagined that they might just disappear in the blink of an eye. So many words left unspoken.
Well, I'm not really sure what's chaotic about that sentiment, but you know, sometimes the game just assigns kind of moral attributes to things, and you don't always agree with it. But
now it's my duty to make sure my friends and tutors did not die in vain. I will honor their sacrifice by making this world a bit more beautiful and kind.
what made an artist enlist in the army?
Perhaps I am a true artist, or simply an amateur who defaces canvases in my spare time. My goddess is a patron of art, so painting is part of my prayer, and I put all my heart into my pieces. But I am a cleric above all else, so I must also tend to others. I went to war because here's where I'm most needed. Sure, I could be painting idyllic landscapes and offering empty prayers to my goddess, but that won't stop people from dying. My goddess has no tolerance for false piety.
You wanted to discuss something with me, right?
Yes, I have a personal request. Before we undertake our journey and leave Canabris behind, I would like to visit Martyr Zacharias' cemetery for a funeral. It's not far from here, and it's important. I would like to pay my respects to my friends from the Temple of Shaylin who died defending the city. Also, if it's not too much trouble, I would like you to come with me to honor their memory. Their friends and family will be at the funeral, and perhaps the commander's personal presence will bring them comfort. I know that you are burdened by many cares right now, so I understand if you can't find the time. But if you could, I would be sincerely grateful.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that, Sosiel. It was nice meeting you. Now I have to go.
You must be rather busy indeed. Leading a crusade all by yourself is no joke. I still believe that you are up to the task. This war has been raging for 100 years, but you've given us a chance at victory.
And then there was one more new person that we've met. But we also need to speak to Daeran as well. We robbed her blind when we came in here earlier. Knight Commander, how can I help? There is so much I can do, just ask. Niran looks at you with eyes filled with enthusiasm. She's holding a notebook and a traveller's inkwell. You've probably heard about the wound I have, the one that sometimes opens on my chest. Can you perhaps tell me if it's some kind of demonic curse? Yes, indeed, I've been told of your affliction. Niran peers at the centre of your chest. Can you will the wound to open? No? That's a shame. What can you tell me about this wound? Well, it's difficult to say. I know of blades that leave never-healing cuts, of poisons that stop wounds from healing. I've heard of witches' curses that are rewarded with eternal wounds, but wounds that seem to reopen and heal over and over. Perhaps you know of other cases like this? Let's think. In 4671, a Mendevian army corporal had all his bones and cartilage turned to glass. In 4700, a scribe in Canabris had all her skin simply come away like she'd been boiled. And in 4638, oh, you don't happen to have insects crawling over you? Locusts? No? Rats, perhaps? Too bad. Niran looks at you with genuine regret. I don't regret that we aren't covered in rats or locusts, personally. Do you think it's dangerous? It most likely is dangerous, but you're under the protection of Iomade, Commander. She granted you mythic power, as they say. Surely the Inheritor would not leave you to face this alone? Have you perhaps noticed that the wound opens at moments when you waver in your faith? Perhaps it's triggered by doubt? Frowning, Niran looks at you with sincere concern. Thank you for your answers. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you anything useful. I was sure to study this matter and consult a few of my encyclopedias. Tell me about yourself. Oh my, I could tell you so many amazing things, and you chose the most boring one of all. But all right, about myself then. Where are you from? Isgr, a small piece of land that proudly calls itself a country, though it hasn't been independent for a single day in all the centuries it's existed. They have a lot of national pride, but all of it is borrowed. Always looking to the great day when they can at last be free from the rule of Cheliax. There's so many place names in this that I'm confused by how you pronounce them. The Asgari love talking politics. If two of them start bargaining over beats at the market, you can be sure they'll end up arguing about whether an independent Asgar will be a monarchy or a republic. I've always found it funny to listen to, and a little disgusting. You see, there are a lot of us halflings in the country, but very few are citizens. Most are slaves. I was lucky. I've always been clever ever since I was little, so they sent me to school instead of making me do grunt work. They taught me to count and write, and I was sold as a secretary to Lord Azalar Tresbot. He's the one I left Isgar with, never to return, I hope. How did you come to serve Queen Galfrey? I was a slave of Lord Azalar Tresbot in Isgar, my homeland. Oh, what a man he was, towering over his fellows like a rock over a garbage heap. A true hero. He bought me as a simple secretary, but he made me learn the history of the world wound, all of it, one volume after another. He hired tutors for me, even sent me to meet prominent historians. He didn't want a simple slave, but a slave with an impeccable education. Lord Tresbot was going on a crusade. He firmly believed that the servants of good gods were weak, and only the follower of Asmodeus could stand against the demon invasion. He took me along as a secretary and a historian, and most importantly, he entrusted me with recording his glorious story for future generations. In his crusade, Lord Tresbot performed many brave feats, but even he could not stand against the world wound alone. In his final battle with the demons, when my lord realized he was doomed, his final act was to cover my retreat, so that I could tell the world of his great deeds. Some people have said that what he did was not heroic, just an arrogant Moran puffing himself up one last time. But I say curse their tongues. My difficult journey ended in Mendev, where I found my freedom. There I published Lord Tresbot's biography and... I don't want to boast, but... who am I kidding? Of course I do. The book sold in great numbers and made me rather famous for a time. That's what brought me to the Queen's attention. She invited me to her court. After all, she was curious about my deceased lord, and she was in great need of an expert on the history of the world wound. I hope you'll find me useful as well. So you're not just a historian, but a writer too? Will you write a book about my crusade? Haha, why not? As soon as we finish off the demons, I'll get right to it. Just take care that you don't end up like Lord Tresbot. Do you worship any deity? She makes a wry face. When I was a slave in Isgar, they would beat me with a stick to force me to believe in Asmodeus. They hit me and said it was for my own good. Ever since then, I don't like temples. I realise there are different gods, like Desna or Caden, who teach goodness and freedom. But it's just... As soon as I smell frankincense, I see the slave driver's stick. One day I'll be able to turn to a deity without cringing from a blow for not being reverent enough. But for now I let others pray for me. Nura's smile trembles and collapses. Failed perception check. Nura wanted to add something but decided to let the painful subject drop. Thank you for your answers. You're welcome. But you should ask me about something more interesting. Tell me the history of the world wound. Oh, I could talk about that for hours. What exactly do you want to know? I hope it just doesn't take hours. Tell me about Old Sarkoris. It was an unforgiving country inhabited by numerous tribes of Kelid barbarians. Imagine Numeria, but without the Metal Mountains, or the realm of the Mammoth Lords, but with a milder climate. That's Sarkoris. The country was ruled by priests of forgotten deities and shamans. It is said that even back then, before the world wound, the boundary between the worlds was especially thin in this region. Since ancient times, Discari has had his claws sunk deep into the minds of the locals. His cults thrived here for many centuries. Aradin tried to stamp them out, but in the end, of course, he passed away. How did the world wound come to be? It happened the year Aradin died, 4606, a little over a century ago. No one knows if the timing was coincidental, or if there's some connection with Aradin's death, but I'll tell you what we do know. The priests and shamans who ruled Sarkoris hated arcane magic and all who practiced it. Wizards and sorcerers were driven from the land, or worse. One of their prisons held a witch named Arilu Vorlesh. We know nothing about her besides her name, and of course the atrocity she committed. By some unknown method, she managed to harness the terrible power of the demon lord Discari. Together they tore open the barrier between the worlds, opening a rift to the abyss in the very middle of Sarkoris. The world wound slowly but mercilessly expanded, devouring more and more of the land. In a matter of years, Sarkoris was a memory. After a moment of silence, Nura adds softly, "Sometimes I think, what did they do to Arilu in that prison? Just imagine, she was ready to give herself to the abyss. If only the demons might devour her torturers along with her. To imagine such hatred, it terrifies me." Tell me about the First Crusade. It began in 4622. Yes, it took the church and the secular authorities nearly 2 decades and hundreds of thousands of lives before they decided to take action. In the meantime, Sarkoris was only supported by handfuls of volunteers. By the time the crusade began, the demons had already invaded Mendev. The crusaders pushed them back. In what must have seemed a total triumph at the time, the forces of good easily crushed the demons on all fronts. They erected Dresden on the lands they conquered, an indestructible fortress and the capital of the Crusader movement. In 4630, 8 years after it began, the First Crusade was declared victorious. It was the first triumph of the Crusades, and unfortunately the last. Tell me about the Second Crusade. In 4638, the whirlwind suddenly started expanding and a new wave of demons appeared. The Crusaders were all but delighted. Last time they'd routed the forces of the Abyss and they welcomed another chance to prove themselves. But this time everything was different. Instead of scattered gangs, they faced a large and organised army. Dresden was besieged, and the Crusaders lost all the lands they'd won back before. They had to retreat, and all that remained of Sarkoris was left to the demons. But while the monsters were devouring the unprotected lands, the Crusaders erected a chain of ward stones along the border of the Worldwound. We have Almade and our Herald to thank for their help. It was the Second Crusade's only victory, but it halted the wound's growth. The catastrophe had become a stalemate, at the cost of tremendous sacrifice. What about the Third Crusade? About 50 years after the opening of the Whirlwind, Discari found an ally. Baphomet entered the war, a cunning, insidious demon lord who prefers deception to open conquest. He sets his enemies against each other and lures the virtuous onto the path of wickedness. Traitors appeared among the Crusaders, secret agents of his cult. For a time, no one suspected a thing, even as they watched helplessly as the Crusader movement fell to ruin. Where once valor proudly stood, now greed and dumb cruelty reigned, and outrage was drowned in apathy. In 4665, the Church announced a new crusade, hoping to boost morale. They didn't succeed, to put it mildly. Some fought the demons in earnest, and for a time they even dared hope to retake Dresden. But the Third Crusade would be remembered as a witch hunt in every sense. Inquisitors hoped to purge any cultist from the ranks of the fighters, but instead they got a barrage of denunciations, widespread suspicion, and innocent victims. It sometimes happens that two orders would denounce each other as traitors and wipe each other out, much to the demons' delight. Just 3 years later, in 4668, the Church put the disgrace to an end. Of all the crusades, that one was the least glorious. Tell me about the Fourth Crusade. Of course, the demons had no intention of sitting quietly caged behind the wardstones. They kept attacking Canabras, trying to reach the stone and destroy it, or just scratch its surface, or if even that wasn't possible, befoul it. The Crusaders drove the demons away from the city again and again. The Fourth Crusade would last for 15 years, an exhausting study in positional warfare. The demons attacked, and they were pushed back. The Crusaders went on the offensive, but were forced to retreat, and all the while the losses were tremendous. The Fourth Crusade's only achievement was that they didn't let a single wardstone fall. They didn't retake a sliver of land, to say nothing of Dresden. So many lives just to maintain a stalemate. You can imagine how that affected morale. Thank you for your answers. My pleasure. You just have to remember to stop me or I'll go on about it forever. I have to go. If you have any questions, come back. So Nuran's she's very positive, but has had a pretty rough past, it seems like, being a slave, and just like, that's pretty rough, isn't it? Mysterious elf, who's this? Damn, oh, okay. The bearded quartermaster gives you a friendly nod. What can I do for you? I saw you talking to the girl hiding her face. Who was she and what did she want? I don't know, Commander. She never introduced herself, but I bet she's not part of our army. I know all our soldiers' by name and by sight. Wilson frowns gloomily, his cordiality gone in an instant. She was looking for some elf volunteer. Wanted to know which tent she was sleeping in. At first I thought she was a messenger from Mendev. She definitely wasn't one of us. But now I see how it all looks mighty shifty. The quartermaster eyes you with concern. She was some sort of spy then. Your supply would do any wine shop proud. Does the crusade really need this much alcohol? Walsa smiles shyly. Don't think I'm trying to encourage drunkenness among our crusaders. It's all in good fun. A way to blow off some steam. When soldiers can gather by the fire and raise a cup to honour both the living and the dead, it reminds them that life goes on. But those who drink to excess or to the detriment of their duties won't get a drop from me. There's no sight more depressing than a drunkard. Show me what you have. I just want to... let's just sell off some of the stuff that we've been picking up. Price in descending order. I'll just go from up here. We're just going to sell it all, I think. We'll keep some of these for now. Just make some cash, because it can never hurt. Because you start being, I think around Act 3 especially, you start being able to get some really good gear. Hey, Warjiff. Hey, Chief, want to talk? What do you think of my new powers? Warjiff pauses to think, rubbing his chin. You mean what you did back there? I have a few ideas. We could send you to a Pitax underground arena to fight. Give you a scary name like Swift Sting or something like that. Give you a great cover story. Enemies burn down your house. You're avenging your dead family. The public eats that stuff up. You'll wear a shiny, eye-catching outfit. Or a black one if you like that better. We'll split the prize money 60-40. 60 for me, of course. You know, arranging the fights isn't easy. Those people are tough. I'll be taking more risk than you. And after we get set up in Pitax, we'll tour different cities, make some real money. Do you like the sound of it? What, you don't like the sound of it? Do you have any other suggestions? Warjiff grins, his yellow eyes lighting up. I got one more. Have you heard of Razmiran? It's some land in the River Kingdoms ruled by King Razmir. A friend of mine used to live in Razmiran. He got out of there as fast as he could. Long story short, this King Razmir of theirs is a god. He keeps his people under his heel. They're all terrified of what he might do. He sits on his throne wearing some white mask, giving power to anyone. Come and take power from me, he says, as long as you believe in me. Warjiff quickly checks that no one is eavesdropping. But that friend of mine, the one who fled, has a half-sister to this old man's on this old man's side who's a cook in the castle, and a washerwoman who the cook plays cards with in the evenings told her a juicy rumour. Word is, Razmir isn't a real god at all. He's got no powers. So here's my point. You do have powers. Pretty scary ones too. We'll find some shabby little kingdom, I'll start some rumours, you'll show off a few tricks to wow the locals, and that's it. We'll make you a deity. But first I want you to put it in writing that I'll be your chief advisor. I'm not doing anything just on the nod. I've been there. People promise you mountains of gold, and then when it comes to it, they're all get lost or I'll set the dogs on you. Sir, do you like the idea? It's a great idea. We'll get to work on it just as soon as we're out of this mess. Warjiff rubs his hands, pleased. I'm going to make you such a legend. You'll love it. A survivor in Canabris becomes a goddess. We'll make you a cult that'll put Iomedes to shame. In the meantime, you can think about what you want on your coins. And for my insurance, don't forget to write the declaration making me your chief advisor. Let's talk later. Whatever, you're free to do as you please. Hey, Horgus. Horgus Worm has been expecting you, thumbs stuck in his belt. There you are. I've been waiting. As you see, I too have joined the crusade. I don't know how to swing a sword, but war is costly, and I have money. Besides, my intellect and business sense may prove useful, even on the battlefield. Besides, I believe... Horgus shifts awkwardly from foot to foot. I believe I owe you an apology. The way I behaved was rude, ill-mannered. You are an honest and honourable person. You have clawed your way up from the bottom of society to the title of Knight Commander, and you are friends with Queen Galfrey herself. Such persistence deserves respect. Horgus tilts his head in a brief acknowledgement of your merits. Please, allow me to give you this magic amulet from my humble personal treasury, to mark our future cooperation. Item received, Amulet of Blackened Mirror. What can you tell me about Count Daeran Arende? The nobles of Canabris should be acquainted with each other, shouldn't they? He is a brilliant young man with a brilliant pedigree, and that story of his, the nobility is the glue that keeps our society together. I suppose that's why demons so often choose their estates as primary targets. Who would notice the demons' bloody massacre if they only slaughtered poor country folk? The Arande family shared the tragic plight of the Gwyrms. Along with many other members of the nobility, they fell victim to a treacherous attack during a major celebration taking place at their family estate. I hadn't received an invitation and was slightly insulted by the snub, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The gods saved me from a terrible fate. All the guests died that day from a magical demonic disease. I sympathize with the Count deeply. He has endured so much, and it's no wonder he keeps himself aloof from me. I think this is due to the fact that Holger Squirm's fate so resembles his own. We both have to relive these horrible memories whenever we see each other. Why have you decided to support the Crusades now? With all due respect, that's none of your business. I have my reasons. Perhaps I felt a rush of patriotism when Canabris was destroyed. Anyway, why would you think I never supported the Crusades? Perhaps I simply don't like to brag about my donations. Ostentatious charity only attracts beggars. I'd wager that Irabeth has no idea whose money she's been spending on drinks and supplies. Why did you hide the fact that Camilla is your daughter? Didn't I tell you this at the mansion? It's because her mother, Iris, was a lowly half-elf who looked after my garden. I always wanted to join the Gwyrm name to another noble family. The Gwyrm legacy must not be mixed with common blood and vanish into obscurity. Iris didn't mind, and we managed to hide our relationship. When Camellia was born, I did not claim her as my own. To all of Mendev, Camellia is the daughter of a lowly servant who died over a decade ago. And before you start telling... Well, we've already really heard this. Yeah, you looked after her. We get it. How did Camellia's mother die? Horgus pierces you with a long, heavy stare. I'm not going to tell you about that. Some things ought to remain private. I have to go. Hey, Camellia. What do you think of the powers you received from me? Camellia shrugs nonchalantly. People of noble descent grow accustomed to ample opportunity. The powers I have received from you are useful, but I see no point in treating them with excessive piety. Thanks for that.
Careful now.
Oh, Ilan of the Hound Hearts. Oh, this is the... We have a side mission with these. The knight is so absorbed in reading the letter that he takes no notice of you or anything around him. Okay.
What's that glitter?
Oh, hello. May Canabris be damned. I spit on the streets. Okay. That seems pretty, counter-crusades.
Hello. So, what do you reckon about everything that's come crashing down on us? All the responsibility, command, this new power?
Sela looks anxious. She's honing her sword, but her movements seem nervous. The girl doesn't even notice you at first, but when she does, she smiles cheerlessly and stops what she's doing. It's a little overwhelming, to be honest.
Don't be sad. Look at me. I'm sitting here worrying over my troubles, but you have it much worse than all of us put together.
Sela looks at you with compassion.
I'm still frightened by what happened in the Grey Garrison. Were we really chosen? By Iomade herself? You know, back when I was a snot-nosed kid who just started down the path to becoming a paladin, I imagined once or twice that I was going to do something heroic. The lights would shine down on me, the trumpets would sing, I'd hear the voice of the goddess, or at least her herald, you know? I'd be informed that I had been chosen for a great cause. But that's the point where my imagination always failed me. Somehow, it really happened. Without all the trumpets or the herald or even anyone explaining what I had to do. though it's clear as day, my place is here, in this demon-ridden wound. Quite a lovely war going on, in fact. Endless, I hear. I'm gonna need some time to wrap my head around this. Spare me an hour and I'll crawl into some dark corner and whine about my hard lot. What can I tell you? I cry easily.
Thank you for speaking with me. You're a good egg sealer. Well, nothing against you, really. Where's Daeran? There he is. There you are. So, how'd you like your new role, advisor? Daeran winces. You also enjoy poking me with that stick, don't you? Imagine it, me, a crusader? If my dearest cousin hoped to teach me a lesson, she managed it perfectly. An assignment I couldn't avoid without losing face. This idiotic journey leading straight into the demon's maws. I could have been on a pleasure boat right now, with the loveliest songstress and pitax on my arm, and a bottle of the finest Kieran wine to keep us company. Incidentally, I blame you for all of this. Daeran lets out a sigh. Well, actually, I think Cousin Galfrey is to blame for everything that's happened to me. And I suppose some of my misdeeds could be considered my own fault, but I can hardly be expected to take responsibility, can I? Certainly not. Therefore, I shall lay all of the blame at your door, and plot my revenge. He gives you an innocent smile. Did you also receive a fraction of that unusual power? Looks like it. I genuinely hoped that getting away from you would be the end of it. If your gift truly did come from Iomade, then giving me a smidgen of that power was a very subtle joke on her part. I had no idea that our divine Lightbringer of Mendev had a sense of humour. Don't get me started on my many acts of sacrilege against her. That obscene engraving, the truth about the test of the Starstone, is the tamest one by far. People say you were deliberately trying Queen Galfrey's patience. Is that true? Does it even matter? All of Mendevian high society has declared war on me. They either despise me or they're trying to steer me back onto the right path, and I'm doing everything in my power to keep them on their toes. I relish the prospect of all the fun this mess in Canabris will bring. Daeran grins from ear to ear. I shall either commission a song about the great Canabris fiasco from a certain talented bard, or confuse the jewellers with a rather tall order. A batch of silver dragon toys with detachable heads. Give me a week, and they will be in every shop in the capital. You should make sure it's really easy to rip the wings off your dragon trinket as well. Kids are gonna love it. Daeran laughs. So be it. From now on, you are my muse. I'd love to visit Heaven's Edge and see the Arande estate someday. Oh? I was just about to mention it myself. I've been thinking. Now that I'm in the middle of this whole Crusader nonsense, I simply must devise new ways to have fun. With all the recent commotion, my birthday completely slipped my mind. What if we were to celebrate it at Heaven's Edge? It's not far from here, and you'll get to enjoy a banquet in a bona fide haunted house. Daeran seems to have trouble getting the words out, which clearly indicate how rarely he has to ask for anything. Since you are my superior, and I am your advisor, I am obliged to ask your permission to leave for the festivities. And I want to invite you too. I'm sure the commander can free up an afternoon while the soldiers are on leave. Are you really going to throw a banquet at the very place where your whole family died? Daeran purses his lips for a moment before replying in a bored drawl. Yes, what of it? Am I supposed to weep and quake with fear for the rest of my life? I've stayed away from the damned place for 10 years, and now I'm going to return there to drink, dance, and be merry without a care in the world. You can keep your squeamish disapproval to yourself. Alright, deal. Perfect! You'll have a ball, I'll make sure of it. Something strange flickers in Daeran's smile. I should go. Goodbye. Oh, more stuff over here.
Precisely.
Right, so we've been given some side quests that we can do. We've got Sela's quest. Sela wants to go and do some stuff with her friends. Sosiel wants us to go to a funeral, and we need to go to Daeran's
Always watch your back.
crusades. Hey, Nenio. Ah, girl, there you are. Very good, just in time. You will be delighted to know that I need you for an experiment. So, the Grey Garrison stands roofless. Demons are running for the hills with their tails between their legs. Mandevian's queen, what's her name? It's on the tip of my... Ah, yes, Galfrey, is scurrying to and fro. And all this is somehow connected to you, my loyal follower. Thus far, there is no scientific evidence of your exceptionality, if one discounts blind faith in divine intervention, which I do. We people of science refuse to believe in the inexplicable without any proof. We are the ones who explain the inexplicable. Nenio punctuates her statement with an energetic sweep of her arm. And therefore, open your mouth and say "ah" for me. Ah. Nenio peers into your mouth with a practiced eye. Alright, your throat's fine. Tongue looks perfectly normal. Your breath, she sniffs. The smell is in line with the regular functioning of the digestive system. Now for your teeth. She sticks one hand in your mouth and probes each of your teeth in turn with the skill of a seasoned dentist. No detectable alterations. By the way, did you know how many individuals, while being wholly civilized representatives of their races, still have an amazingly powerful bite? As if suddenly recalling something, Nenio promptly pulls her hand out of your mouth. If someone gets on my nerves, I can bite hard enough too. Can you? We definitely must test that someday, but not today. Now we are conducting an experiment of a different kind. Moving on. Alright, what do we do next? Ears. Let's check your hearing. Testing! Nenio yells right in your ear and nods in satisfaction as she observes your reaction. Your hearing is fine. Was fine, but don't worry, it's scientifically proven that it should return to normal soon. Next, Nenio circles you. Eyes are clear, posture is satisfactory, limb length is standard, no lice. She stops, rubs her chin in contemplation and, in a slightly dejected tone, says, Girl, you are the picture of health. It's a pity, I was expected to find some anomaly. Well, now let's assess your mental state. Imagine a hypothetical situation. You are a tree. 2 squirrels have found their way into your hollow and are now copulating there. What do you do? Let them copulate, why should I care? An unconscious act of good, allowing 2 lesser creatures to procreate while protecting them during this crucially important process? On to the next question. Another hypothetical situation. You are a tomato. You have just been picked from the vegetable patch and put into a crate. You know that today the cook will use half of the tomatoes from your crate to make soup. What do you do? If I'm going to be eaten, there's not much I can do. That's the fate of a tomato. An unconscious act of submitting to the unspoken rules and laws underpinning the functions of the universe. Yes, it's all quite clear to me. Or Ness doesn't like that. Angelic self-sacrifice in the face of certain death. An angelic concern for lesser creatures. You certainly have something of an angel in you. On that note, I deem this experiment complete. Thank you for your participation. Nenio looks at you pensively and then gestures at you with a wide sweep of her arms. And yet you remain a puzzle to me. I love puzzles. One of these days I will solve you completely, unless I forget. Now I have time to answer your questions. Come on, ask away. I have to go. We also have to go do Nenio's... we can go do Nenio's side quest as well. She wants us to explore a mysterious ruin for scientific reasons. Wasn't intending to talk to people this much, but there you go. Might as well do it now. Lan, what brings you here? Oh, why does he have so much to say? Tell me about your people. Oh, I wish I hadn't asked this now. Of course, what would you like to know? What's it like living in your caves? Oh, Lan gives you a broad smile. His smile is strange, as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world there's only a few hundred like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere, nowhere to grow grain for bread, or cotton and linen for cloth. Your neighbours are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae, and then eat you. And it's not that bad, because you can try to eat most things that are trying to eat you. Sometimes at the risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing around anywhere to be found, predator or prey. And that's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. Lan shrugs. But life underground had its upsides, pun intended. There's no risk of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather, not counting the earthquakes, of course. Do you have a way to tell day and night? You can't see the sun in your caves. Every Mongol settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end. But this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every Mongol child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. There's nothing could keep me away from it. Not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take double the punishment once I was caught. So sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribe can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. Do Mongol tribes fight each other? There were some skirmishes, and I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before too. Lan speaks in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live. But hunger, it can push a person over the edge. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's kill. But I can understand those of my kin who tried. They hear your kids begging for food and not able to hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. He frowns and goes silent. You're the only member of the Neatholm tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Because all of Galarian calls us that? I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issue with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them. But personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as a name. Are you really the descendants of the First Crusaders? More like demon spawn, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. It's the magic of the world wound that affected our ancestors and made their children the way we are. Like most in our tribe, Chief Sol fancies himself a descendant of the underground crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our caves for a reason. Maybe he remembered us? Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of crusaders began having children, and the babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't. So our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down here. Down there. Under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children, and hoped to return in time, but it never happened. Instead, the World Wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their children will look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many mutations are fatal. Lan stops, then goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child until they turn at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. There's no point. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. Why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations passed, and many still live who remember old Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. But where we live, mongrels start getting old much earlier than humans, much faster, and with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs, but in reality I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't figure out how to dispel the demonic plague and who were abandoned by their own kind. Thank you, I found out everything I wanted to know. I'm going to talk to you more later, Lan, because I've already done too much talking. I'm starting to fumble things. I'm going to take a break there, and then we'll go out and do... Oh, okay. Maybe not. So, you're war chief now. You're going to lead us to free Sarkoris from those Fae? Ulbrich nods his head with respect. I felt it the moment I saw you. This one is special. And that you'd go and get yourself a whole army in no time? That I did not expect. Well, how does your newfound power feel? Has it gone to your head yet? We're going to fight demons, not Fae. Fae, demons, angels. Ulbrich screws up his face and waves his hand in front of it like he's trying to get rid of a foul smell. They're all the same spooks. They could have stayed in their magic-y forests, happy as a pig in the mud. But no, they had to poke their funny heads into the mortal world. Hold on, don't change the subject, eh? What do you think about being war chief? Oh, this is going to be so much fun. Easy there. There's no time for play there's time for play and there's time for work. We have a war to fight, not a jig to dance. We'll have our fun when we win, but right now things are serious. Well, I didn't come here just to flap my gums. Since I'm going to war and you're in charge, I better do this the right way. Ulbrich lowers his head and says solemnly, "My blade and my life are yours, war chief. I mean, it's not like I need a blade. My talons and beak will do the trick. But saying it like that is the dumb thing. My talon and beak are yours just doesn't have the same ring to it. There's something else. I can already see things are bad, but the tales of all of Sarkoris burning down and its people dying out? I'm sorry, I don't believe those. It can't be true. We're not the kind of folks to be snuffed out just like that. I have kin in a village not far from here. Kurataglin. Let's go there and talk to them. Have them fill us in. They're smart folks. Perhaps they'll help us in battle too. Together we'll clear up Sarkoris before you can say, Ariotya, you foul creatures." Ulbrich bumps his fist into his palm with a chuckle of bravado. "Alright, I'll go prepare for the road ahead. Take care, War Chief." Kurataglin. Sorry, that's how it goes. Right, okay, that's the last conversation we're going to have, and then we'll go out. And I'm sure there's more people we have to talk to, but we can do that next time we come back to camp. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to follow this series, I'll be posting daily, so give us a subscribe and leave a like or a comment if you're feeling generous. Thank you. See you later.